Around the World in 80 Days by Jules Verne. Chapter 5, in which a new security appears on the London Exchange. Phileas Fogg, in leaving London, doubtless did not suspect the great excitement which his departure was going to create. The news of the wager spread first in the Reform Club, then produced quite a stir among the members of the Honourable Circle. Then from the club it went into the papers, through the medium reporters, from the papers to the public of London and the entire United Kingdom. The question of the tour of the world was commented upon, discussed, dissected, and as much with passion and warmth as if it were a new Alabama affair. Some took sides with Phileas Fogg, others, they soon formed a considerable majority, declared against him. To accomplish this tour otherwise than in theory and upon paper, in this minimum of time, means that of communication employed at present, it is not only impossible, it was visionary. The Times, the Standard, and the Evening Star, the Morning Chronicle, and 20 other papers of large circulation, declared against Mr. Fogg. The Daily Telegraph alone sustained him to a certain extent. Phileas Fogg was generally treated as a maniac, as a fool, and his colleagues were blamed for having taken up this wager, and impeached in soundness of the mental faculties of its originator. Extremely passionate, but very logical, articles appeared on the subject. The interest felt in England for everything concerning geography is well known. So there was not a reader, to whatever class he belonged, who did not devour the columns devoted to Phileas Fogg. During the few days a few bold spirits, principally ladies, were in favour of him, especially after the Illustrated London News had published his picture, copied his photograph, deposited in the archives of the Reform Club. Certain gentlemen dared to say, "Humph, why not, after all? More extraordinary things have been seen." These were particularly the readers of the Daily Telegraph, but it was soon felt that this journal commenced to be weaker in its support. In fact, a long article appeared on the 7th of October in the Bulletin of the Royal Geographical Society. It treated the question from all points of view, and demonstrated clearly the folly of the enterprise. According to this article, everything against the traveller, the obstacles of man and the obstacles of nature, to succeed in this project, it was necessary to admit a miraculous agreement of the hours of trial, arrival and departure, an agreement which did not exist, and which could not exist. The arrival of trains at a fixed hour could be counted upon strictly, and in Europe, where relatively short distances are in question, but when 3 days are employed to cross India and 7 days to cross the United States, could the elements of such a property be established to a nicety? The accidents to machinery, the running off the trains off the tracks, collisions, bad weather, and accumulations of snow, were they not all against Phileas Fogg? Would he not find himself in the winter on the steamers at mercy of the winds or the fogs? Is it then so rare that the best steamers of the ocean lines experience delays of 2 or 3 days? But one delay was sufficient to break irreparably the chain of communication. If Phileas Fogg missed only by a few hours the departure of a steamer, he would be compelled to wait for the next steamer, and in this way his journey would be irrevocably compromised. The article made a great sensation. Nearly all papers copied it, and the stock in Phileas Fogg went down in a marked degree. During the first few days which followed the departure of the gentleman, important business transactions had been made on the strength of his undertaking. The world of bettors in England is a more intelligent and elevated world than that of the gamblers. To bet is according to the English temperament. And so not only the various members of the Reform Club made heavy bets for or against Phileas Fogg, but the mass of the public entered into the movement. Phileas Fogg was entered like a racehorse in a sort of stud book, and a bond was issued in which immediately quoted upon the London Exchange. Phileas Fogg was bid or asked firm above par, and enormous transactions were made. But 5 days after his departure, the appearance of the article in the Bulletin or of Geographical Society, the offerings commenced to come in plentiful. Phileas Fogg declined. It was offered in bundles, taken first at 5, then 10. It was finally taken only at 20, 50, at 100. Only one adherent made steadfast to him. It was the old paralytic Lord Albemarle. This honourable gentleman, confined to his armchair, would have given his fortune to be able to make the tour of the world, even in 10 years. He bet 5,000 pounds in favour of Phileas Fogg, and even when the folly as well as uselessness of the project was demonstrated to him, he contented himself with replying, "If the thing is feasible, it is well that an Englishman could be first to do it." The adherents of Phileas Fogg became fewer and fewer. Everybody, and not without reason, was putting himself against him. Bets were taken at 150 and 200 against one. When 7 days after his departure, an entirely unexpected incident caused them to not only take it all. At 9 o'clock in the evening of day, the commissioner of the Metropolis Police received a telegraphic dispatch in the following words: "Suez to London. Cowan, Commissioner to Police, Central Office, Scotland, of the bank robber, Phileas Fogg. Send without delay warrant to arrest in Bombay, British India. Fix detective." The effect of this dispatch was immediate. An honourable gentleman disappeared to make room for the banknote robber. His photograph, deposited at the Reform Club with those of his colleagues, was examined. It reproduced, feature by feature, the man whose description had been furnished by the Commission of Inquiry. They call how mysterious Mr. Phileas Fogg's life had been, his isolation, his sudden departure, and it appeared evident that this person, under the pretext of the journey round the world, and supporting it by a sunset bet, had no other aim than to mislead the agents of the English police.